June stood at the window of the broadcast station, looking at the red sky. Small cracks spread across the ground below. Another quake had hit during the night. Soon, there would be more. "Any answers?" June asked, not turning from the window. Minji checked the screens again. "Nothing, Chief Scientist. The message went to all 27 Alliance worlds. No one has replied." June nodded slowly. He had expected this. The Nari people were small in number, only 9 million on the whole planet of Haniul. Why would the Great Alliance care about them? "Send it again," June said. "This is the 73rd time," Minji said. "And we will send it 73 more if we must." Minji began the broadcast again. The message was simple. This is Haniul, home of the Nari people. Our planet is dying. Our core is breaking down. We need ships. We need help. We are part of the Alliance. Please answer. The message went out in all the main languages of the Alliance. It traveled across space at top speed. Then they waited. Again, June walked to his desk and checked the reports. The planet's core was getting worse. They had 3 months, maybe 4, before Haniul would break apart. The Nari had no ships big enough to save many people. Their space travel was limited to small trips to their 2 moons. They needed help. "The Council wants to see you," Minji said. "They're meeting now." June took a deep breath and left the broadcast station. Outside, people moved quickly. They knew something was wrong. The ground shook more each day. The air was getting hotter. Fear filled the streets. In the council chamber, 5 elders sat at a round table. They looked tired. They had been making plans for weeks, trying to find ways to save as many people as possible, but their plans were small. Without help, most Nari would die when Haniul did. "Chief Scientist," Elder Ta said. "What news from the Alliance?" "No answer," June said. "We keep sending the message. They keep ignoring us." Elder Kang hit the table with his fist. "We have been loyal members for 60 years. We have paid our dues. We have followed their rules. And now, when we need them, they turn away. Maybe they haven't received our message," Elder Yuna said, but her voice showed she didn't believe this. "They've received it," Jun said. "They just don't think we're worth saving." The room was quiet. Everyone knew it was true. The Alliance was made up of great civilizations with billions of people. The Nari were small, with little to offer. In the cold math of the Alliance, the Nari didn't matter. "We should keep trying," Elder Ta said. "Someone must help." June was about to speak when Minji ran into the room. Her eyes were wide with surprise. "Chief Scientist, we got an answer." June's heart jumped. "From the Alliance?" Minji shook her head. "No, from humans." The room went silent again, but for a different reason. Everyone knew about humans. They were new to space travel. They had only reached their own system's planets. They were not part of the Alliance. In fact, the Alliance had refused them membership, calling them too emotional and unpredictable. "Humans?" Elder Kang asked. "What can they do? They barely have spaceships." "They sent a message," Minji said. "They say they're coming to help." "How did they even get our message?" Elder Yuna asked. "It wasn't sent to Earth. They say they were testing a new deep space receiver," Minji explained. "They picked up our broadcast by chance." June felt a small hope grow inside him. What exactly did they say? Minji looked at her data pad and read, "We received your distress call. We're preparing ships now. Hold on. Humanity is coming." "Can they really help us?" Elder Tay asked June. June didn't know. Humans were far behind the Alliance in technology, but they had answered when no one else would. "I don't know," June said honestly, "but right now, they're the only hope we have." Ambassador Dad paced the meeting room, her long blue robes sweeping the floor. As the Nari's chief diplomat to the Alliance, she had spent years learning about other species. Humans were not high on the Alliance's list of important races. You cannot be serious, June, she said. Humans? They have barely left their own system. June stood calmly by the communication station. They answered our call. No one else did. Because they don't know better, Daz said. The Alliance races understand what's happening to our planet. They know it's too big a problem to fix. The room shook slightly. Another quake. They were getting stronger. And yet the humans are coming, Jun said simply. Day stopped pacing. What can they even do? Their ships are small and slow. Their technology is basic. The Alliance report says they still use chemical rockets for some of their ships. Before Jun could answer, Minji called from her station. Chief Scientist, we're getting a live transmission. It's the humans. The large screen on the wall turned on. A woman appeared. She wore a simple dark uniform with a small patch showing Earth on her shoulder. Her black hair was cut short, and her eyes looked tired but alert. This is Captain Hyun of the Earth vessel Horizon *, she said. We're approaching your system now. Can you hear me? June stepped forward. Yes, Captain. This is Chief Scientist June of Hanyul. We hear you. Captain Hyun nodded. Good. We received your distress call. How can we help? Da moved beside June and whispered, That's it. No talk about payment. No demands. June waved her to be quiet. Captain, our situation is dire. Our planet's core is destabilizing. We have maybe 3 months before Hanyul breaks apart. We need to evacuate 9 million people, and we have no ships large enough. Hyun's face didn't change. She didn't look shocked or ready to give up. She just nodded again. I understand. We don't have enough ships either, not for that many people. But we have ideas. She looked at something off-screen. We'll be in orbit in 6 hours. Can you meet us then? We'll need to work fast. Yes, of course, Jun said. Good. See you soon. Horizon out. The screen went dark. That's it? Dai asked. No questions about what we can offer in return. No discussion of the Alliance protocols for planetary evacuation. Humans don't work like the Alliance, Jun said. I studied them. They're different. Different is dangerous, Dai warned. 6 hours later, Jun, Dai, and 3 council elders waited at the Hanyul spaceport. The human ship landed smoothly. It was smaller than Alliance ships, but looked sturdy. The door opened, and Captain Hyun walked out with 4 other humans. They wore no special gear, just their uniforms. The Alliance always wore protective suits when visiting Hanyul. Our air is safe for you? Jun asked, surprised. Hyun smiled. We checked before landing. Close enough to Earth normal. It's a bit thick, but we'll adjust. Dae stepped forward. Captain Hyun, I am Ambassador Da. I must ask what Earth wants in return for help. We should establish terms. Hyun looked confused. Terms? You're dying. We're here to help. That's the term. But surely your government, Da began. We'll be proud we saved lives. Hyun finished. Look, we don't have time for this. Your planet is coming apart. We need to start planning now. A loud rumble shook the ground. A crack opened near the landing pad. The Nari looked worried, but the humans stayed calm. That's been happening more often, one of the humans asked. He had a device in his hand, scanning the ground. Yes, Jun said. The quakes are getting worse each day. Hyun looked at Jun directly. We've brought our best engineers and scientists. We have 6 more ships on the way. It won't be enough, but we have a plan. What plan? Elder Ta asked. We'll build what we need here, Hyun said. Your factories, our designs. Big ships, arc ships, to carry your people. That's impossible, Da said. We don't have time. Hyun smiled again, but not with humor. With determination. Then we better stop talking and start working. As they walked toward the meeting hall, a message came in from orbit. Minji rushed to Jun with the news. The Alliance has finally responded. she said. They're sending ships. June felt relief wash over him. They're coming to help after all. Minji's face fell. No, sir. They say they're coming to observe, for their records. Captain Hyun overheard. Her face hardened. To watch you die. For their records. June nodded slowly. That sounds like the Alliance. Hyun put her hand on June's shoulder. The touch surprised him. Alliance species rarely touched the Nari. Well, they're going to be disappointed, she said, because we're not going to let that happen. 3 days after the humans arrived, the Alliance ships appeared in the sky. They were big and sleek, much more advanced than the human vessels. 5 ships, each large enough to carry thousands of people. When the Nari saw them, they felt hope rise in their hearts. That hope died quickly. We are not here for rescue operations, said Toll, the Alliance representative. He was tall with gray skin and 6 fingers on each hand. He sat across from June, Da, and Captain Hyun in the meeting hall. 4 other Alliance members stood behind him, recording everything with small devices. Then why are you here? Hyun asked. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were hard. To document, Toll said. The end of a species is important data. The room went quiet. Even Da, who had always respected the Alliance, looked shocked. You have ships, Jun said. Big ones. You could save many of my people. Toll blinked slowly. The Alliance Council has done the calculations. The risk does not match the benefit. 9 million Nari is a small population. The resource expenditure to save you would be too great. Too great. Hyun stood up suddenly. We're talking about lives. We're talking about statistics, Toll corrected. The Nari contribute only 0.003% to Alliance productivity. The fuel alone to evacuate them would cost more than they would generate in 50 years. Hyun looked like she might hit Toll. You cold-blooded. Captain. June touched her arm. Please. Hyun sat down, still glaring at Toll. The Alliance has made its decision, Toll said. We will stay in orbit to record the planetary collapse and the extinction event. It will be valuable for our scientific archives. While you watch from above, we'll be down here saving lives, Hyun said. Toll turned to her. Your species is still young. You don't understand galactic economics. Our models give your rescue attempt a 2.7% chance of success. You have 7 ships. 7. The Nari need hundreds. Then we'll build hundreds, Hyun said. Toll smiled, showing pointed teeth. Impossible. The time scale alone. Can we have this conversation later? June interrupted. If you're not here to help, we need to get back to work. After the Alliance members left, Dai put her head in her hands. I spent my life working with them. I thought they cared about us. They care about power and resources, Hyun said. But we care about people. She turned to June. I need to contact Earth. The next day, June watched as Hyun spoke with her leaders back on Earth. The Nari had given her their best communication room to use. Yes, sir, Hyun was saying. That's the situation. The Alliance won't help. It's just us. The human on the screen was older, with white hair and dark skin. You understand what you're asking, Captain. Every ship we have. That leaves Earth defenseless. Earth isn't under attack, Admiral. These people are. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. The risk is enormous. We've never attempted anything like this. If we don't try, 9 million people die, Hyun said simply. Another pause. Then the Admiral nodded. All right. I'm sending everything we have. All 7 interstellar ships, including my flagship. We'll bring engineers, fabricators, and every resource we can carry. Thank you, Admiral Jin, Hyun said. Don't thank me yet. We still have to pull off a miracle. The screen went dark. Hyun turned to June. Admiral Jin is bringing our entire fleet. It's not much by Alliance standards, but it's everything we have. Your people would risk so much for strangers, Jun asked. You're not strangers anymore, Hyun said. You're people who need help. Outside the window, the ground cracked as another quake hit. Buildings swayed. In orbit, the Alliance ships watched, recording everything. Even with your ships, Toll is right, Jun said quietly. We need hundreds of vessels to evacuate everyone. And we only have months. Hyun smiled. Then we better get started. The next morning, the sky filled with the sound of engines. 6 more human ships descended through the clouds. They were not as big or pretty as the Alliance vessels, but to Jun, they were the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. The largest ship landed at the spaceport. A woman with 4 stars on her uniform walked out and looked around at the cracking ground and red sky. She took a deep breath and nodded. I'm Admiral Jin, she said to Jun. Let's save your people. The main meeting hall of Hanyul City was filled with people. Nari officials sat on one side, humans on the other. At the front, Admiral Jin stood next to a large screen. This is our plan, she said. She touched the screen, and an image appeared. It showed a huge ship, bigger than anything the Nari had ever built. This is an Arc ship, Jin explained. It can hold up to 2 million people. We need 5 of these to save your entire population. Elder Ta spoke up. But we don't have ships like this. We'll build them, Jin said. Here, using your factories. The room filled with confused voices. Build such ships in just months. It seemed impossible. Jin raised her hand for quiet. I know it sounds crazy, but we've studied your factories. You make small ships well and fast. We can change those factories to make big ships. Jun looked at the plans. Our engines aren't strong enough for ships this size. We'll use our engine designs, Jin said. Human reactors are small but powerful. We've already sent the plans to your engineers. Toll, the Alliance representative, had been watching from the back of the room. Now he stepped forward. This is a waste of time and resources, he said. Our calculations show this plan has a 2% chance of success. Jin looked at him calmly. Then we'll make it work anyway. Impossible, Toll said. Maybe for you, Jin replied. But humans are good at impossible things. Toll shook his head and left the room. The other Alliance members followed him. They don't believe in us, Dae said quietly. They don't have to, Jin answered. We believe in ourselves and in you. The next day, work began. The humans spread out across Hanyul, going to every factory and workshop. They brought plans, tools, and new ideas. Jun visited the largest factory in the main city. Inside, he found a human woman directing Nari workers. Parts of ships were being taken apart and rebuilt in new ways. Who are you? Jun asked the woman. Engineer Suk, she said, not stopping her work. We're converting your shuttle engines to work with our reactor designs. Will it work? Jun asked. Suk smiled. It has to. All over Hanyul, the same scene played out. Humans and Neri worked side by side. The ground shook more often now, but no one stopped working. At the spaceport, Admiral Jin met with Captain Hyun and Jun. They stood under the largest human ship, the Endeavour *. We're stripping parts from our own ships to build the Arc ships, Jin said. Engine components, life support systems, navigation computers. Won't that leave your ships unable to fly? Jun asked. Some of them, yes, Jin admitted. But we can rebuild ships later. You can't rebuild a species. A loud crack sounded, and the ground shook hard. Everyone stumbled. A building in the distance collapsed. The quakes are getting worse, Jun said. How long until the first Arc ship is ready? Jin checked her datapad. 3 weeks, if we push hard. Do we have 3 weeks? Hyun asked. Jun didn't answer. He wasn't sure. In orbit, Toll watched the activity on the planet below. Another Alliance official, Kren, stood beside him. The humans are actually trying it, Kren said. They're building ships. It won't work, Toll said. Our models are clear. And if they succeed? Kren asked. Toll was quiet for a moment. It would be problematic. If a primitive species succeeds where we claim success was impossible, some might question the Alliance's authority. Should we intervene? Kren asked carefully. No, Toll said. Not yet. Let them waste their efforts. When they fail, it will show everyone why the Alliance is in charge, why we make the hard decisions. Below them, the first pieces of the first Ark ship were being assembled in orbit. Human ships moved back and forth, carrying parts and people. The work never stopped. In the main factory, Engineer Sook wiped sweat from her face as she worked on a massive engine. A Nari assistant handed her a tool. Why are you doing this? The assistant asked. You could die here with us. Sook didn't look up from her work. Because it's the right thing to do. The ground shook again. Time was running out. 2 weeks passed. The first Ark ship grew piece by piece in orbit above Haniel. It looked like a giant metal whale, with huge engines at one end and living spaces throughout. But it was only half finished. On the planet below, things were getting worse. The ground shook almost all the time now. Small cracks had become wide gaps. Hot air rose from deep in the planet. The sky had turned from red to dark orange. June stood in the command center, looking at the latest reports. They were not good. The eastern continent is breaking up, he told Admiral Jin and Engineer Sook. The city of Pell fell into the sea yesterday. We lost 5,000 people. Jin closed her eyes for a moment. I'm sorry. How much longer until the first Ark ship is ready? June asked. Sook checked her datapad. 10 days if nothing goes wrong. But things keep going wrong. As if to prove her point, the building shook hard. Lights flickered. Dust fell from the ceiling. That was the worst one yet, Jin said. June's communicator beeped. Chief Scientist, this is Elder Ta. The Alliance ships are leaving orbit. What? June was shocked. All of them. 3 have already gone. The others are preparing to leave. Jin frowned. They're running away. June, Jin, and Sook rushed to the spaceport. They found Day talking with Toll, the last Alliance representative still on the ground. You can't just leave, Dad was saying, her voice angry. You promised to help. We promised to observe, Toll corrected. Our observations are complete. The planet will collapse within 2 weeks, not 3 months as you first calculated. All the more reason to stay and help, Jin said as she approached. Toll turned to her. Admiral, your effort has been noted in our records. It is unusual, but it is also futile. Our ships are needed elsewhere. Your ships could save millions, Sook said. At too great a cost, Toll replied. The Alliance must think of the bigger picture. Jin stepped closer to Toll. The bigger picture. There are children here. Families. There are children and families across the galaxy, Toll said. Resources must be allocated wisely. This isn't about resources, Jin said. This is about what's right. Toll's face showed no emotion. Right is not a metric the Alliance uses in its calculations. He turned and walked to his small ship. I suggest you humans leave while you can. Save yourselves, at least. They watched as Toll's ship took off. Above them, the last Alliance vessels were leaving orbit. The Nari and humans were now alone. They're really not going to help, Daz said, her voice hollow. I served them for 20 years, and they just left us to die. Jin put her hand on Daz's shoulder. We're still here, and we're not leaving. That night, a major quake hit the capital city. Buildings collapsed. The ground split open, and hot gas poured out. Thousands died, including 2 human engineers. The next morning, Sook stood in the remains of the main factory. Equipment was damaged. Work was stopped. She looked tired, with dirt on her face and clothes. June found her there. Engineer Sook, we need to talk. About what? She asked, not looking at him. About giving up, Jun said quietly. The Alliance was right. We can't finish in time. Suk finally turned to him. We can't give up. Look around you. Jun waved at the damaged factory. It's over. The planet is dying faster than we thought. The first Ark ship is only half built. We should use your remaining ships to save as many as we can. That would be only a few thousand people, Suk said. It's better than none, Jun replied. Suk was quiet for a moment. Then she picked up a broken piece of equipment. When I was a child on Earth, there was a big flood in my town. The water was rising. Everyone said to run to high ground. Sounds like good advice, Jun said. My father was a builder, Suk continued. Instead of running, he started making a wall of sandbags. People said he was crazy. The water was coming too fast. But he kept working. Other people saw him and started helping. Did it work? Jun asked. Suk smiled. No, the water broke through. But because so many people had stayed to help, we had time to get everyone out. No one died. She put down the broken part and picked up a working one. Sometimes you fight even when you know you might lose, because fighting gives you a chance. Outside, Admiral Jin's voice came over all communicators. All personnel, report to stations. We're changing the plan. We're going to try something new. Suk looked at Jun. See, humans always have another plan. What is it this time? Jun asked. I don't know yet, Suk admitted, but I bet it's something the Alliance would never try. Admiral Jin's new plan was bold. Instead of one big Ark ship, they would build 3 smaller ones. Each could hold 3 million people. It would be tight, but it could work. We'll use parts from our own ships, Jin explained to the Nari leaders. The Asterisk Endeavor Asterisk will be taken apart completely. The other ships will give up what they can spare. Your people will be stranded here, Elder Ta said. Jin nodded. Some of us, yes, but if the Ark ships work, we'll all leave together. For the next 5 days, everyone worked without stopping. The ground shook constantly now. Hot gas came out of cracks in the street, but the work continued day and night. In orbit, the first Ark ship was almost done. The second and third were growing quickly. Hopes began to rise among the Nari. Far away on the Alliance Central World, the council was meeting. 12 leaders from different species sat around a large table. The humans are actually succeeding, one member said. Our observers report they may finish the first Ark ship in 3 days. Impossible, another said. Our models are wrong, the first one cut in. The humans found a way. They're using their own ships for parts. They're working methods we never considered. This is concerning, said the head of the council, a tall being with pale skin. If humans succeed where we said success was impossible, many will question our authority. What do you suggest? Asked another member. The head was quiet for a moment. The humans cannot be allowed to succeed. It would undermine Alliance stability. You mean we should stop them? Someone asked, shocked. For the greater good, the head confirmed. A few million Nari is a small price for galactic order. The vote was taken. 7 for, 5 against. The decision was made. Back on Hanyul, the first Ark ship was being prepared for its test flight. Jun and Engineer Suk stood in the control room, watching the screens. Engine power at 80%. Suk said, that should be enough for a short test. Jun nodded. If this works, we can start loading people tomorrow. The ship's engines glowed blue as they powered up. Then suddenly, red warnings flashed across the screens. Something's wrong, Suk said, checking the data. The power coupling is failing. The engines flickered and went dark. The Ark ship drifted in orbit, dead. What happened? Jun asked. Suk shook her head. I don't know. Those parts were checked yesterday. They were fine. Admiral Jin entered the control room. The second Ark ship just reported problems too. Their navigation system is fried. This isn't a coincidence, Suk said. Someone sabotaged our ships. Minho, a human security officer, was checking the supply area when he heard a noise. He moved quietly between the crates and saw two figures working on a box of engine parts. They weren't human or nary. "Stop," Minho shouted, pulling out his weapon. The figures turned. They were Alliance members, wearing the gray uniforms of technical staff. They had been left behind when the ships left. "Step away from those parts," Minho ordered. One of the figures raised a strange device. There was a flash of light. Pain shot through Minho's chest. He fell but managed to fire his weapon. One of the saboteurs dropped. The other ran. Despite his wound, Minho called in on his communicator. "Security breach. Alliance saboteurs. Engine parts." Then he passed out. Minho woke up in the medical bay. His chest hurt, but he was alive. Admiral Jin and Jun stood by his bed. "You were right," Jin told him. "We found 3 Alliance agents. They'd been sabotaging our work for days." "Why?" Minho asked, his voice weak. "Politics," Jin said. "They can't let us succeed where they failed." "The damage?" Minho asked. Jin looked grim. "Bad. All 3 Arc ships need repairs. We lost at least 4 days of work." "We don't have 4 days," Jun said quietly. "The planet's core is reaching critical. We have 3 days at most." A doctor approached. "Officer Minho needs rest. His wound is serious." "I'm fine." Minho tried to sit up. "You're not," the doctor said. "The weapon they used caused internal damage. You need surgery." "No time," Minho said. "Fix me up enough so I can work. We need everyone." Jin looked at the doctor. "Can you do that?" The doctor hesitated. "Yes, but it's risky. Without proper treatment now, he might not recover later." "I'll take that risk," Minho said. "Those are my friends up there on those ships." Jun stared at Minho. "You would risk your life for people you just met." Minho managed a small smile. "Wouldn't you?" Jun thought about the Alliance, who had known the Nari for 60 years, but left them to die. "I would now," he said. Admiral Jin's new plan was bold. Instead of one big Arc ship, they would build 3 smaller ones. Each could hold 3 million people. It would be tight, but it could work. "We'll use parts from our own ships," Jin explained to the Nari leaders. "The Endeavor will be taken apart completely. The other ships will give up what they can spare. Your people will be stranded here," Elder Ta said. Jin nodded. "Some of us, yes, but if the Arc ships work, we'll all leave together." For the next 5 days, everyone worked without stopping. The ground shook constantly now. Hot gas came out of cracks in the street, but the work continued day and night. In orbit, the first Arc ship was almost done. The second and third were growing quickly. Hopes began to rise among the Nari. Far away on the Alliance Central World, the Council was meeting. 12 leaders from different species sat around a large table. "The humans are actually succeeding," one member said. "Our observers report they may finish the first Arc ship in 3 days." "Impossible," another said. "Our models are wrong," the first one cut in. "The humans found a way. They're using their own ships for parts. They're working methods we never considered." "This is concerning," said the head of the council, a tall being with pale skin. "If humans succeed where we said success was impossible, many will question our authority." "What do you suggest?" asked another member. The head was quiet for a moment. "The humans cannot be allowed to succeed. It would undermine Alliance stability." "You mean we should stop them?" someone asked, shocked. "For the greater good," the head confirmed. "A few million Nari is a small price for galactic order." The vote was taken. 7 for, 5 against. The decision was made. Back on Henul, the first Arc ship was being prepared for its test flight. Jun and Engineer Suk stood in the control room, watching the screens. "Engine power at 80%. Suk said. That should be enough for a short test. June nodded. If this works, we can start loading people tomorrow. The ship's engines glowed blue as they powered up. Then, suddenly, red warnings flashed across the screens. Something's wrong, Suk said, checking the data. The power coupling is failing. The engines flickered and went dark. The Ark ship drifted in orbit, dead. What happened? June asked. Suk shook her head. I don't know. Those parts were checked yesterday. They were fine. Admiral Jin entered the control room. The second Ark ship just reported problems too. Their navigation system is fried. This isn't a coincidence, Suk said. Someone sabotaged our ships. Minho, a human security officer, was checking the supply area when he heard a noise. He moved quietly between the crates and saw two figures working on a box of engine parts. They weren't human or nary. Stop, Minho shouted, pulling out his weapon. The figures turned. They were Alliance members, wearing the gray uniforms of technical staff. They had been left behind when the ships left. Step away from those parts, Minho ordered. One of the figures raised a strange device. There was a flash of light. Pain shot through Minho's chest. He fell but managed to fire his weapon. One of the saboteurs dropped. The other ran. Despite his wound, Minho called in on his communicator. Security breach. Alliance saboteurs. Engine parts. Then he passed out. Minho woke up in the medical bay. His chest hurt, but he was alive. Admiral Jin and June stood by his bed. You were right, Jin told him. We found 3 Alliance agents. They've been sabotaging our work for days. Why? Minho asked, his voice weak. Politics, Jin said. They can't let us succeed where they failed. The damage? Minho asked. Jin looked grim. Bad. All 3 Ark ships need repairs. We lost at least 4 days of work. We don't have 4 days, Jun said quietly. The planet's core is reaching critical. We have 3 days at most. A doctor approached. Officer Minho needs rest. His wound is serious. I'm fine. Minho tried to sit up. You're not, the doctor said. The weapon they used caused internal damage. You need surgery. No time, Minho said. Fix me up enough so I can work. We need everyone. Jin looked at the doctor. Can you do that? The doctor hesitated. Yes, but it's risky. Without proper treatment now, he might not recover later. I'll take that risk, Minho said. Those are my friends up there on those ships. June stared at Minho. You would risk your life for people you just met. Minho managed a small smile. Wouldn't you? June thought about the Alliance, who had known the Nari for 60 years, but left them to die. I would now, he said. The second Ark ship was half repaired when the bad news came. June ran into the control room, where Admiral Jin and Engineer Suk were working. New readings from the planet core, Jun said, his voice shaking. We don't have days left. We have hours. Jin looked up from the control panel. How many hours? 12. Maybe less. The room went quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. The second Ark ship would not be ready in time. 4 million Nari were still on the planet. What about the third Ark ship? Suk asked. Not even close to ready, Jin said. The ground shook so hard that people fell. Part of the ceiling crashed down. Dust filled the air. We need to use the human ships, Jin decided. All of them. We'll pack in as many people as we can. But your ships are small, Jun said. They can only hold a few thousand each. Better than nothing, Jin replied. She hit the comm button. All human ships. This is Admiral Jin. Emergency Protocol 7. Prepare for maximum passenger load. We evacuate in 2 hours. Across Hanul, humans ran to their ships. The 7 vessels that had brought them to this dying world would now take as many Nari as possible to safety. What about the rest? June asked quietly. Jin didn't answer. They both knew the truth. Most would be left behind. Captain Hyun stood in the center of her ship, the Horizon Asterisk. Crew members were removing seats, equipment, anything not needed for basic flight. Pack them in everywhere, she ordered. Hallways, cargo bays, even the engine room if it's safe. A crew member approached her. Captain, life support can only handle 500 people. If we take more, we'll take as many as will fit. Hyun cut him off. We'll breathe less. The crew member stared at her. Captain, that's not how life support works. Then we'll share, Hyun said firmly. Each human will buddy with a Nari. Share air masks if we have to. Soon, Nari began boarding the human ships. They were scared but orderly. Parents held children close. Elders helped each other. At the main spaceport, Dai organized the boarding. When she saw how few would fit on the ships, she removed her name from the list. You should go, Joan told her. You've done enough. So have you, she replied. But we're both staying until the end, aren't we? June nodded. They would stay until everyone who could leave was gone. In her ship, Captain Eun watched as Neri filled every space. They were packed so tightly that no one could sit. Her ship was built for 300 people. She had 1,200 on board. Life support is at 200% capacity, her engineer reported. The system will fail in about 6 hours. How long to reach the safe zone? Eun asked. 8 hours at full speed. Eun thought for a moment. The crew will use emergency oxygen. Give all main life support to the passengers. Captain, Fats. An order, Eun finished. We stand or fall together. All across Hanul, the same scene played out. Human ships filled beyond safe capacity. Human crews giving up their quarters, their food, their oxygen for the Nari. On the ground, Admiral Jin made a final check. How many are we taking? About 30,000, Jun reported. Out of 4 million. Jin's face showed her pain. I'm sorry we couldn't save them all. A huge crack opened in the ground near the spaceport. Buildings fell into it. The planet was in its final death throes. Sir, a human officer called to Jin. We found something. The officer led Jin and Jun to a small Alliance ship hidden in the hills. Inside were the remaining saboteurs, preparing to escape. They left a ship, Jin said. It can hold about 1,000 people, the officer reported. Jin looked at the Alliance members. Get out. This is our ship, one protested. Not anymore, Jin said. Her voice left no room for argument. You can come with us and face charges later or stay here. Your choice. The Alliance members chose to come. As the final preparations were made, Engineer Suk approached Jin and Jun with a wild look in her eyes. I have an idea, she said. A crazy, impossible idea. Those are my favorite kind, Jin replied. The second Arc ship. We can't finish it, but we can fly it, Suk explained. It won't be safe. It might blow up, but it could work. How many could it hold? Jin asked. 2 million, maybe more. Jin looked at Jun. What do you think? Jun thought of his people. Of the millions who would die if this didn't work. Let's try, he said. Engineer Suk's crazy plan wasn't just crazy. It was insane. The second Arc ship had no finished life support systems. Half its engines were missing. Its hull wasn't fully sealed. We'll patch it together with parts from the third Arc ship, Suk explained, and parts from our ships that aren't leaving. You can do that in a few hours, Jun asked. No, Suk admitted, but we'll try anyway. Humans and Neri worked faster than they ever had before. When the hull needed patches, they used parts from buildings. When they needed more power, they took engines from ground vehicles. Whatever worked, they used. The human ships took off one by one, filled past their safe limits with Nari. The overcrowded vessels moved slowly into space, heading for safety. On the half-finished second Arc ship, people worked even as the ship began to lift. Repairs continued as it rose through the air. Hull breach in Section 4. Someone called. Patch it. Sook shouted back, not stopping her work on the engines. Through it all, the ground shook. Mountains fell. Oceans boiled. Haniel was dying. 2 hours before the final collapse, the second Ark ship was in orbit. 2 million more Neri were packed inside. The life support was working at 40% capacity. The engines were at 30% power. It's not enough, Sook told Admiral Jin. We can't get away fast enough. Jin looked at the readings. What if we gave it a push? What kind of push? Sook asked. The Endeavor, Jin said, referring to her flagship, which had been stripped for parts. It still has some engine power. If we position it behind the Ark ship and fire all engines, then detonate, the shock wave might give the Ark ship enough speed. That would destroy the Endeavor, Sook said. It's just a ship, Jin replied. We can build more ships. The plan was set. The Endeavor was positioned behind the Ark ship. Its remaining crew, just Jin and 5 volunteers, prepared the engines. Full power, Jin ordered. The engines fired, pushing the massive Ark ship. Now get to the escape pods, she told her crew. What about you, Admiral? One asked. I'll be right behind you, Jin said, but she knew someone had to stay to make sure the detonation happened at exactly the right moment. The escape pods launched. Jin watched them go, then turned back to her controls. The Ark ship was moving, but too slowly. The planet below was breaking into pieces. The shock wave would reach them soon. Just a little more, Jin whispered. She pushed the engines past their limits. Warning lights flashed everywhere. In the Ark ship, Jun watched the screens. What is she doing? He asked. Saving us, Sook answered quietly. The Endeavor's engines glowed white-hot. Then Jin hit the final command. The ship exploded, creating a massive shock wave. The Ark ship jumped forward, suddenly moving much faster. It cleared the danger zone just as Haniel broke apart completely. Among the debris, a small escape pod appeared. Inside, Admiral Jin smiled. She had timed it perfectly. 6 months later, a new planet. The Nari called it New Haniel. It orbited a yellow sun, much like Earth. The Alliance had offered the Nari a small, poor planet on the edge of their territory. Admiral Jin had offered something better, a share of Earth's newest colony world. On a green hill overlooking the first Nari settlement, Jun stood with Jin. They watched Nari and human children playing together below. 7 million saved, Jin said, out of 9 million. Not perfect, but better than 0. The Alliance is not happy, Jun said. They're saying you went against their authority. Let them complain, Jin replied. What are they going to do? Kick us out of their club. We were never in it. They're afraid, Jun said. Word is spreading about what happened. Other small species in the Alliance are starting to look to Earth instead of the Council for leadership. Jin smiled. Good. Maybe the galaxy needs a reminder that every life matters. That sometimes you help not because it's logical, but because it's right. A Nari child ran up the hill and gave Jin a small flower. Jin thanked her with a bow, the traditional merry greeting. The child giggled and ran back to play. The Alliance asked why we would risk so much for strangers, Jin said, watching the child go. We asked how we could possibly do anything less. June looked up at the stars appearing in the evening sky. Somewhere out there, the Alliance Council was meeting, discussing the humans and their unpredictable ways. Somewhere else, other species were hearing about what happened to the Nari and how humans had come when no one else would. I think the galaxy is about to change, Jun said. I hope so, Jin replied. For the better. Together, they walked down the hill toward the new beginning they had fought so hard to create.